Hey, my name is Ryan Leake. I'm a best-selling author, executive coach, and motivational speaker that gets an opportunity to inspire C-suite executives, leaders, and teams all around the world. Fast Company recently came out with an article about how employee engagement is out, and what organizations desperately need is not an engaged employee, but an inspired one. Through my executive coaching practice, I've had a front row seat to see how leaders and team members work when they're inspired. I've also seen how they work when they aren't inspired. Do you want to know what people can pull off when they're inspired? Their goals. They can sell more. They can create more. They can overcome adversity. They can push through mental health challenges. You can have the most talented team in the world, but if they're not inspired, they won't win. Now here's the deal. Don't we all know what an uninspired team member looks like? Late, lazy, lack of follow-through, lack of purpose, lack of vision for the future. And that's why events matter. They serve as a rally point, a catalyst for inspiration. And it's also why who you have speak at that event matters. And that's where I come in. What's it like to be on the other side of me? Have you ever considered what it is like to be across the room from you, across the Zoom from you? Have you ever considered what it's like to be married to you, what it's like to be parented by you? What's it like to be on a reply all from me? What's it like to be stuck in a group chat with me? What's it like to be on the other side of me? Like some of us, we just go, it's awesome. Are you sure? When I think about what it's like to be on the other side of me, I just want to be considerate because it may not be as enjoyable as I think it is. So if you want to take your leadership to the next level, you have to be asking yourself this question: what's it like to be on the other side of me? It would be helpful if you asked somebody else to verify.
The way I describe Ryan Leake is that he comes into a room and commands it. He walks in, he's got a tremendous sense of humor, he's happy. He brings a positive energy into the space. So if you have a group of people that you want lifted up, engaged, no one does it better. He literally pulls personalities and conversations out of people that normally would not speak up.
And the number one fear that will hold you back in your career, the number one fear that will stall your business, is the fear of failure. It is this fear of putting myself out there and being rejected. And so one of the things that I want you to understand about the most successful people in the world, every single person that you and I look up to, follow, admire, and read about, they all have one thing in common: failure. So the very thing we fear the most is the very thing that made successful people who they are. And so today, I'm going to encourage you to get outside of your comfort zone. Today, I'm going to encourage you to take a risk and go after a client that you think is ungettable or unapproachable.
Several years ago, we had Ryan Leake speak at our national conference. And I have to say, we were remarkably amazed at how well he communicated to our audience, even though it was a unique audience. And since then, he has been one of the most requested communicators at our conference every year. I think for a number of reasons. First of all, you know that he's prepared. He understands the audience he's talking to. He actually called us several times before the actual presentation because he wanted to get into the hearts and minds of the people he would be connecting to. And so you could tell when he stepped on the stage that he knew where they were and where they were coming from. I know for us as an organization, we can't even imagine doing an event or a conference without asking Ryan Leake to be a part of it because he changes the game.
And you can just have this mantra that thinks the world would be a better place if everybody else just changed. But that's just not how leaders think. Leaders walk in a room and they think, man, this organization would be better if I change. Here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. If everyone else in the organization is the problem in your mind, I just have to tell you, that's bad math. Because it's easy for you and me to walk around and pretend to be a know-it-all or a know-them-all. So what leaders have to do is they have to walk in rooms, and instead of assuming that they know everybody in there, they have to begin to ask the question, what's it like to be you?
I think of the 3-day retreat, this was probably the best experience, and having Ryan there was just, he was so relatable. Just from the minute he started, I think he made everybody feel welcome, and he came across as very authentic. It didn't feel like we were being spoken to. It felt like we were really part of an experience and going on a journey.
I gotta tell you the truth. The greatest temptation any of your team members have is to lie to you. You wanna know why? Because they like health insurance. That's why, okay? Like, that's why people lie to their leaders all the time. So it's the leader's job to go, hey, I want you to know honesty and feedback is welcomed here. I think we must understand the power of intellectual humility. Intellectual humility is the importance of knowing you could be wrong. Not that you are. I'm not saying you're wrong. I didn't say that. I'm saying you could be. Every single leader, when you're leading someone, there is an automatic intimidation factor that you need to bring that wall down and let people in your world know, hey, I've got some thoughts. Hey, I've gotten this far in life for a reason. However, as successful as I am, I still, every now and then, could be wrong. Today, I want you to reach out to 3 to 5 colleagues and ask them how you can get better. And you just ask them, hey, how can I get better? First time I did this with some friends. I said, man, guys, help me get better. Let me tell you how this is gonna go. My friend said, hey, Ryan, I'll be honest with you. I don't even think about you that much, man. Sorry. I'm like, another guy goes, man, you're pretty sharp, man. I go, no, come on, man, help me. He's like, well, if I'm being nitpicky, I said, yeah, that's exactly what I want. He goes, Ryan, I don't know how to tell you this. I said, man, come on, man, I'm ready. I'm bracing for impact. Tell me. He said, man, well, you walk really fast. I said, what? He said, man, you're the fastest walker I know. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, Ryan, you do events. He goes, and there's times when you get done, you are walking so fast through a lobby that you actually ignore people. And I know that's not who you want to be. He goes, but Ryan, I've seen you slow down. I've seen you look people in the eyes, and it means something to them. So if I were you, if there was one way that I could help Ryan get better, I would just say, slow down.
I'd say that Ryan Leak set the tone for our retreat. His presentation was upbeat and exciting and got us off on the right foot. I think the key takeaway for me was just the whole concept of chasing failure. I immediately went out and got Ryan Leak's book, and within 2 days, I'd read the entire book and it gave me perspective on how I can move forward and take his chasing failure message with me.
When you go to failure school, what you will learn is that failure loses its grip when you just keep moving forward. The whole goal of failure is to get you to stop trying. The whole goal of failure is to get you to stop being brave, to get you to stop being courageous. But there's something about an executive, there's something about a leader, there's something about a team member that just makes a decision. When looking at a setback, I'm just gonna keep moving forward. Do not wait for Monday, because Monday is Motivational Monday, and we all got great intentions to be awesome when? First thing Monday morning, okay? First thing Monday morning, I'm gonna start working out. First thing Monday morning, I'm gonna try something new. First thing Monday morning, but guess what? It's a Thursday, and it's a great day to change. One of my favorite parts of my job is the behind-the-scenes work I get to do with leaders and event planners to understand the biggest challenges their audience has. For me, I absolutely love what I do, and it's never just another keynote for me. And I want to make sure that what I put together for an event speaks to their pain points and inspires them to overcome. It would be my pleasure to work with you and add value to your next event. Here's what we've discovered in our executive coaching practice is that there's levels to leadership. There is a version of your leadership where you will simply just go through the motions. You just check boxes. You'll simply be on autopilot. You simply do what you've always done, and so you'll get the results you've always gotten. But then there's a level of leadership where you're bringing your best ideas to the table. You're resilient. You're thinking in innovative ways. You're actually trying to take team members to another level as well. You're actually bringing out your best. Let's just be honest. Some of us can actually skate by with the status quo and nobody would ever know because our average is still better than most people's best. And so what we do is we play it safe, play it small, and nobody knows. Today, I don't want that to be your day. Today, I want you to reach your potential. I want you to absolutely bring your best. And so today, I'm going to give you 4 questions. 4 questions that I think are going to help you take everything that you do to a whole new level. The first question is this. What's it like to be on the other side of me? This is the self-awareness question. Have you ever considered what on earth it is like to be on the other side of you? What it's like to be hired by you? What's it like to work with you? What's it like to be in a meeting with you? Is that long? Is that too short? What's it like to be on a reply all from you? What's it like to be married to you, parented by you, to date you? Do you know what it's like to be stuck in a group chat with you? And maybe you're one of those Android people that hold iPhone people hostage and we can't leave the group chat if we want to. Do you know what it's like to be on the other side of you? And I know what some of you are thinking, Ryan, on the other side of me, it is quite amazing. To which I would say, are you sure? Because on the other side of you, it could be inspiring. And on the other side of you, it could be intimidating. Here's what I know to be true about you and me. We all work with at least one person who isn't self-aware. Isn't that true? Do not look at that person right now like, I'm glad you rode with me. I'm glad you almost didn't make it. You almost didn't make the flight. I'm glad you did. I'm glad you're here right now. But let me just tell you what next level leaders do, okay? If you think you're self-aware, you're probably not. Next level leaders assume that they're the person. Next level leaders, they walk into the dealership, they walk onto the floor and they go, you know what? Maybe on the other side of me, it's not as ideal as I think it is. Because then what it does is it puts us in a position to say, you know what, maybe there are some things that I actually have to work on. I've got a new book coming out that I think is going to add so much value to your business, so much value to your dealership. I want you to pre-order it today. Get it on Amazon. It's called How to Work with Complicated People, okay? Strategies for effective collaboration with nearly anyone. Keyword nearly, because some people are certified crazy and you can't work with everybody. Nevertheless, we did a national research study on the state of complicated people in the workforce, and the statistics were astounding to us, especially when it comes to family-owned and operated businesses. Here's what we learned. 74% of working Americans consider themselves less complicated to work with than average. In other words, what that means is most of us, at least 3/4 of us, walk into a dealership, they walk into an office, and we go, you know, there's some difficult people that work here. I'm just not one of them. But if you want to go to the next level, you should assume that maybe on the other side of you, there is a little bit of complexity. If you want to learn how to work with difficult people, don't ignore them. Don't try and steer away from them. Move toward them. Because when you're working with a complicated person, here's what they have in common with you. Something in their behind-the-scenes story that is also difficult. I've learned that difficult people have difficult behind the scenes. Yeah, behind the scenes, they're dealing with all kinds of stuff. They're dealing with toddlers, they're dealing with teenagers, they're dealing with siblings who want their Netflix password, they're dealing with bills, they're dealing with a mortgage, they're dealing with angry customers, they're dealing with student loans, they might be struggling with anxiety, they might be struggling with depression, they might have been married a couple of times, they maybe got some baby mama drama, they got a lot going on in their life, and guess what? So do you, and you're still killing it. So can't you appreciate somebody else who's managing a lot? And they're just trying to do the same. When we move towards difficult people with empathy, what happens is we start seeing human and we stop seeing headache. And we start being one of those people that's actually empathetic. What's it like to be on the other side of you? Is it somebody that truly moves towards people that are different than them, see the world completely different than them, think differently than them? Or on the other side of you, is it somebody that just thinks everybody else needs to get their act together? If you want to go to the next level, be one of those people that says, you know what would it look like if we just got in the boat together and we both got our acts together? The second question that I think is vitally important to go to the next level is, how can I be intentional? This is the application question. How can I be intentional? Here's what often happens with leaders is they lead like this. We'll see. Expecting greatness to happen on accident. Sometimes we work with leaders that they're good people. They're really nice. Sometimes the hardest person to fire is the nicest person in the world, but they're incompetent. It's like, hey, we know you almost burned down the building, but we know you're sorry. You're a nice person, but like you're not good with like matches. And so, nevertheless, what happens is nobody gets good at their job from just being a good person. You get good at your job by being an intentional person. You are not going to be an amazing leader on accident. You're not going to be an amazing leader just because you're nice. You're going to be an amazing leader because you are intentional. This is what each and every leader here has an opportunity to be. The best leader they've ever had. Like if I ask the people that work for you, who's the best leader you've ever worked for in your entire life? You have an opportunity for them to say your name. But the only way that's going to happen is if you're intentional. Accidental leadership assumes everyone got the memo. But intentional leadership clearly communicates expectations and follows up for understanding. So whether you're talking to a sales leader or a service leader or anybody on your team, there can be this thing of, man, I've already told you this. You know our values. It's on our website. You think they're looking at your website every day? They're not looking at your website, okay? But nevertheless, you can be this, oh man, of course they know, of course they know, of course they know. And you get frustrated when they forget. But guess what? If you're a leader in this room, you're automatically the CRO. You are the chief repeating officer, okay? So get used to it. Like you are gonna have to say it over and over and over again because why? Because you're trying to go to the next level and you're gonna have to be intentional. Accidental leadership waits for occasional feedback. Intentional leadership, they seek it out consistently. Some of us, we get feedback from our team once a year, once a quarter. But you want to go to the next level, be one of those leaders that's always going, hey, how can I get better? What else can we do to make sure that our customers understand that they are a priority to us? Do you have everything that you need to do your job at the highest level? Why? We're consistently seeking it out. For us to do that, we need what I like to call in my book, it's called intellectual humility. It's the importance of knowing that you could be wrong. I'm not saying you are wrong. But I am saying you could be. What does that mean? It means you're just going to use different language, especially when having conversations that could be a little bit difficult. I'm going to give you some phrasing today. It's going to change your life. It's going to change every relationship you have professionally and personally. Whenever having a difficult conversation, I want you to begin it with these words. I could be wrong, but I could be wrong, but this is what I think people on our sales team are feeling. I could be wrong, but this is the vibe I think our customers are getting from us. I could be wrong, but this is why I think our numbers are down from last month and why we didn't meet our quota. I could be wrong, I could be wrong, I could be wrong. When you say I could be wrong, this is what you're actually saying. I know I'm right, however, I'm going to invite you into my rightness and let you speak for a second, okay? No, what you're saying is that I want to make space for your story while I tell you the one I fully believe. This drastically changed our marriage because we used to have an accusatory communication style. You said you were going to do the laundry. You said you were going to pick up the kids. Where are the kids? We didn't left the kids. We don't know where the kids are, okay? We lost the kids. And so it was very much a he said, she said type of communication style. But we started using I could be wrong, and it was a game changer. I'll never forget. I was watching the NBA Finals last summer, minding my own business, sitting on my own couch. Wife comes out of the master bedroom. She looks at a pile of dishes, and then she looks at me. She looks back at the pile of dishes, and then she looks back at me. I said, you talking, but you ain't saying nothing. Say what you need to say. She said, hey, sweetie. I said, yeah. She said, I could be wrong, but didn't you say you were going to do the dishes? I said, oh, sweetie, tonight you are wrong. Ain't no way I'm volunteering to do the dishes in the middle of the NBA Finals. In fact, there's a 2-month period where I volunteer for nothing in our house, okay? Now, here's the deal. In my house, I'm usually always wrong. But here's why I think I could be wrong is going to add so much value to your life and especially your leadership. Because if you can't say I could be wrong, then you'll never say I was wrong. Because you don't even think it's possible. And if you can't say I was wrong, then how would you ever say I am wrong? Or I am sorry. I know this might be some tough language for some of you. Maybe you're one of those my bad leaders. My bad, it ain't even that serious. Maybe you're one of those. Oh, let me tell you my favorite leadership line. It's I'll own that. I'll own that refuses to play the blame game. So it may not be my fault that it's failing, but it will be my responsibility for it to get a W. Why? Because I'm an intentional leader and I'm trying to get better. I want you to consider all of the insight that you may have learned before that you may have failed to apply. Things like walking with empathy, active listening. You think about all of the trainings that you've had over the years. Sometimes we get in such autopilot that we forget to get back to the basics. That's why I love asking the question, how can I be intentional? Because it allows you to apply what you already know. It's not that we need to learn something new. Sometimes we need to practice something old. Question number 3 that I think is vitally important to go to the next level is the question, who can I pave the way for? This is the investment question. Did you know you're not just building a great business? You're trying to build great people. And when you build great people, your business will take care of itself. Who can you pave the way for? The reason this question is so vitally important to me is because I am only in this room because other people were asking this question. Anytime I get a speaking engagement, I always love to share what I like to call my breadcrumb slide. I'm going to tell you how I got in this very room. I grew up in a lower income neighborhood. My parents scraped together every dollar they could to get us into a private school. Unfortunately, when I was in the 5th grade, my father suffered a stroke and our household income was cut in half. We started to get ready to enter into the public school system, but there was a freshman English teacher named Mrs. Holstead. She comes to my mother and she says, hey, Mrs. Leak, me and my husband, we see your boys' potential. So we've decided to cover their tuition to remain in this school. It's a very generous act on their behalf. It was because of Mrs. Holstead that I got to meet my college basketball coach named Cedric, who introduced me to the VP of admissions named Nate Roosh, who introduced me to my first boss named Justin. Justin said, hey, it seems like you can communicate pretty well. I'm going to call my friend Kent and see if he'll have you speak in Chicago. I get on the phone with Kent. Kent says, hey, man, you sound like a great guy, but unfortunately, we don't bring in outside speakers. I said, man, I understand that. He said, but because Justin called, we'll roll the dice. I said, oh, man, I appreciate that. I fly to Chicago and I speak for Kent. As soon as I get done, Kent walks up to me and he goes, hey, that was actually pretty good. I said, actually, I'm not offended. I'm glad you're pleasantly surprised. That's great. That's awesome. That's cool. He said, in fact, it was so good, I'm going to call my friend Steven and see if he'll have you speak. Get on the phone with Steven. Steven says, hey, man, you sound like a great guy, but unfortunately, we don't bring in outside speakers. I said, hey, man, I hear there's a thing going around. I get it, man. It makes sense. He said, but because Kent called, we'll roll the dice. It's because of Steven, a guy named Jason was watching while I was speaking for Steven. Jason calls and says, hey, man, I've been hearing great things about you, but there's one thing you need to understand about our organization. I said, you don't bring in outside speakers? He goes, how'd you know? I said, everybody's doing it. You should try it, man. It's a thing. I go up to Minneapolis and I speak for Jason, and a gal in the audience named Lacey, she walks up to me, she goes, hey, that was actually pretty good. I said, actually, you're going to put some respect on my name. I'm sick and tired of all of this actually stuff, okay? She says, in fact, it was so good, I'm going to introduce you to my friend named Marjana. Not to be confused with Marijuana, okay? Her name is Marjana, all right? And she gets me connected with a speakers bureau and a bunch of amazing agents. And I speak here in New Orleans at an event called PCMA. And Ashley and Allison, who are part of the NADA team here, they were at PCMA. And they were like, man, we love Ryan. And we're trying to pitch him. And we're just looking for him to do it at the right time. And so they pitched me to Melissa. Melissa was like, maybe we'll see. She told me this too, right? She keeps it 100 all the time. And I like it, okay? She's like, I'll think about it. And then they watched a few more clips. And then she said, okay, I'm going to take it to John and Gary. John and Gary are like, Ryan, we like you. Don't mess this up. That's how I got in this room. Now, what I wish people believed about me is that I started from the bottom and now I'm here. It's just not true. I started from the bottom and I had help. I had a Mrs. Holstead. I wouldn't be in the room if it wasn't for John and Gary. I wouldn't be in the room if it wasn't for Melissa. I wouldn't be in the room if it wasn't for Ashley and Allison. One of my agents is here named Brian. I wouldn't be in the room if it wasn't for him. I had help. This is what I want you to know. There's somebody at your dealership that has a destination to get to that will not get there unless you help them, unless you help them go to another level. I am going to challenge you to lead in such a way that you help somebody else get in this room. NADA is only going to continue to grow, and perhaps we'll need a bigger room. Maybe it's at one of the Vegas conventions. And in that bigger room, I have to wonder 5 years from now, who's going to be in the room because of you. I don't know if you know this, but at some point somebody hired you, and the whole time they were doing this. I don't know. But they rolled the dice on you anyways. So is there somebody in your life right now that you need to roll the dice on? Guess what? Sometimes people gave you opportunities before you were ready, and the opportunity is what got you ready. So sometimes you might be looking at somebody going, Ryan, I don't know. I think you should shoot your shot. Why? Because you're only in the room because somebody took a shot on you. And I have the exact same story. Last question I think is vitally important to go to the next level. Question number 4 is what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? This is the potential question. I don't know what you think is possible with your life. I don't know what you think is possible with your dealership. But in our last closing moments, I want to lift the lid of what you think is actually possible. Whenever I talk to people about getting outside of their comfort zones, I typically hear this phrase, hey, Ryan, you sound like a great guy, but man, it's just not me. Corporate version of that is, we don't do that here. And I get that that's just not you today, but imagine who you could be tomorrow. I get that maybe historically you've never done that for your customers, but imagine if your customers demand that you become something different in the future. As a part of the surprise wedding that I told you about earlier going viral, my wife and I got to go on a couple of different TV shows. One of them was the Queen Latifah show. And on the Queen Latifah show, my wife surprised me. She looked at me and she said, hey, Ryan, me and the Queen been working on a little surprise, so go ahead and check out this screen. On the screen came the late, great Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant said, hey, Ryan. In that moment, I peed on Queen Latifah's couch. I said, wait just a minute. How in the world does this man know my name? He said, Ryan, I heard about this fabulous wedding you pulled off for your bride, and we just wanted to return the favor and invite you out to Los Angeles to come hang out with me and the Lakers. You picked the game, and the invitation has been formally extended to you. I looked at my wife. I said, baby, you are winning the game. I picked a game that was 3 months from the recording of the Queen Latifah show, which meant I had 3 months to prepare to meet Kobe Bryant. Therefore, I began practicing my greeting in the shower. Hey, Kobe, voice too deep. You're doing too much. You're doing too much, okay? I'm like, what do you wear? Do I come all purple or all gold? No, we're going to wear normal clothes because things are getting weird, all right? And it's like, do you ask for a photo or an autograph? Rookie fan mistake. He should be asking me for my autograph. I'm losing it. I said, okay. He said, hang out. Is that coffee before a game? No. I'm a generous guy. If we go out to eat, I'm buying. Maybe we go out to eat after the game. But I'm only going to buy depending on where we're going. There's levels to this thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be careful. You can't take Kobe to Chipotle. You got to go somewhere. You see me? And so then I'm like, what are we going to talk about? Do I tell him I'm a motivational speaker? Kobe Bryant did not need no motivation. I tell him I'm a filmmaker. It's like, dude, he lives in Hollywood. Everybody's a filmmaker. So my friends, I came to the conclusion that the only way that Kobe Bryant and I would have an engaging conversation is if I was in the NBA, because then we could just talk about work, right? Now, we haven't been able to meet face to face. You may be wondering, Ryan, like, are you good at basketball? Like, what levels are we talking about here? You also might be wondering how tall I am. The number one thing people tell me when I get done speaking is you're a lot taller in person than you look on the stage. I do not understand the depth perception of where you are seated versus where I'm standing. I don't know if I look like Kevin Hart up here to you, but I am 6'3", and I was an All-American in college at a D3-ish school. Let me explain the ish. You've got Division 1, 2, and 3. The school I went to's Division 3 status was pending the years that I played. So we were in what's called the NCCAA, which stands for National Christian Collegiate Athletics Association, which simply means amongst Christians, I am very good at basketball, okay? Church League MVP is all you need to know about me. Nevertheless, Never pursued professional basketball when I graduated college. I instantly pursued what I'm doing right now. However, I would go to NBA games from time to time, and I'd be that guy in the arena going, man, I can do that. Yeah, just go left. Like in my mind, I could do their job better than they could. But the difference between me and them was that they had tried something, and I had not. So I started getting back in All-American, D3-ish, church league MVP shape, and I was feeling great. And then I started playing another professional basketball player who had been cut from the Chicago Bulls, and he beat me by a considerable margin, embarrassingly enough, to make me think, you know what, Ryan, why don't we shut this thing down? Okay, like if the Chicago Bulls cut this brother and he's amazing, the Lakers ain't gonna be thinking about you. Like, Ryan, why don't you just go be normal, go get a picture, and just go home? And then I found myself doing something that you and I are way too good at. I started talking myself out of being brave. And I realized, it's no way to live. It's no way to lead.